What's going on, everybody? It's Frito here for your Overwatch, and today we're going to be covering everyone's favorite edgelord, Reaper. Reaper is a great hero to make guides about because his mechanical cost isn't as high as many of the other heroes in the game, but there is still so much that you can break down about how to make plays with him. And because of that, his playstyle is almost a distilled version of some Overwatch fundamentals that you can apply across the game. Today specifically, we're going to be taking a look at some gameplay from a patron of ours. On screen, we're going to be showing Matt, who's been trying to incorporate some DPSs into his skill set. He's largely a tank player, and Reaper is a good analog to find a DPS if you're more of a tank player, as a lot of the mechanical skill sets are similar in difficulty. But as you will have seen on screen, especially in this game, sometimes our buddy Matt has some problems when it comes to executing the play of a flank. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in sports and esports, a play is essentially a key example of a typical interaction in the game. So especially in Overwatch, where whatever character you're playing, you're going to have preferred matchups, you're going to have weak matchups, you're going to have windows of opportunity for you to exploit, and finding those and executing those are what making plays is all about. And we've made videos in the past on the Reaper Lurk and Pounce playstyle, and that's what Matt's trying to emulate here in the footage that we're looking at. But as you can tell, it's not going particularly well for him. First, before we talk about what Matt's doing wrong here, let's talk about what he's doing right. Teleporting to the high ground for Reaper is a really strong asset. Saves a ton of time to just jump up there. You can hide until an opportune moment, and then when the engagements break out and then targets are getting called by the enemy team, you can pounce into that mess and hopefully burst down a target of your own, making one of Reaper's crucial impact plays. Now, I really hope you don't oversimplify what's going on here and say, well, his aim's bad, because I know that's not the case with Matt. When he's playing his more preferred heroes, his aim isn't great, but it's by no means as awkward as it seems to be when he's trying to execute these Reaper flanks. Instead, what I think when it comes down to making these plays is sometimes players can lose the focus of what their goal is at the given time. There's so many different things going on all the time. It's very easy to lose track of what you should be doing and to just jump into the team fight without much direction and end up having little to no impact. Whereas if you attack the same situation with patience and discipline, and perhaps more importantly, even a sense of calm, that's really important. Now here I'll show an example of me doing this playstyle in a Reaper duelist type of way. Here on Gibraltar, my team is pushing up in the hangar. The enemy sort of have stabilized on their side, but they're kind of split up. As I notice that the soldier is in the middle of the ship, it's important that I don't rush this opportunity, because alerting the soldier to my presence can scare him off. If I do a little bit of damage, he'll know he's in threat and he'll have time to run away, to scurry about and make my shots hard to hit. What a successful Reaper flank looks like is when you're able to really execute the pounce part of that Lurk and Pounce playstyle, where the second the soldier has to react, my shotgun's already in his chest. And that's the thing about this Reaper playstyle. It isn't so much about your aim, really. I mean, having better aim definitely helps, but it's having that patience to lurk behind the target to set yourself up for that play to develop. If you find yourself in the sweet spot, in the miracle zone, where you surprise the entire enemy team, they don't know you're behind them, and you try to rush those shots a bit too early, well, then they all can just sprint around and run away. This is true of just about any flanking character or flank play that you can think of. Tracer's very similar in this way as well, but Reaper has a bit more of a limited mechanical skill set in comparison. And in the same way, if you want the flank to get the value, then you need to get all of your damage bursted onto target quickly, rather than trying to set up to spam shots when the fights broke out, trying to damage everything at once. And I can explain this in a slightly different way as well. I think a lot of people get caught up with trying to do too much at once, especially since if you're waiting around and letting a play set up, you're not farming up gold damage medals and things like that, and you might think that that means you're not having an impact, but that's not necessarily the case. You get bigger gold damage medals if you brawl in the fight and spam down tanks and the enemy heals them and you keep just pushing damage into the tanks, but that isn't necessarily what you want to be doing with Reaper. Sometimes that's good, but what's even scarier is when you're able to pull off flanks like this. This play that I get on the McCree here is very reminiscent of Harry Hook's Lurk and Pounce play playstyle on this exact map even, Ilios, where he was able to use Reaper when everyone assumed that he was useless. When you find these openings as the enemy is starting to take control of the map, taking your time to set up the perfect shot with your movement more than your aim is really important. Reaper's really stealthy and quiet, so even when he drops, if there's a bunch of noises going around, the enemy might not notice what it is before it's too late. And if you go into that type of engagement satisfied that if you just pick off one target and then Wraith form away, you're basically winning the game for your team. It's the same type of play as like a Widow pickoff that puts you at a big advantage. And when you're going for this type of play, the target selection is fairly important as well. So let's take a look back at Matt's gameplay. At this point, he sees that nobody is looking at him. They have no idea that he's coming behind on this flank, but shooting so early here to do almost no damage alerts Mercy to his presence, and his decision making here is just getting overcomplicated. As most DPS really, but especially as Reaper, you don't have to be active in every fight. Just take a duel that you want convincingly and don't shoot until you get that shotgun uncomfortably close into their chest. And if you do that, I think you'll find following up on those kills is fairly easy. When I do it popping onto the McCree, it doesn't really take much aim, as long as you wait for the target to kind of settle their movement down. And the thing is, when playing Reaper, is that he's fundamentally quite one-dimensional, whereas Tracer can fluidly go in and out of the fight. Reaper, once he's in, he's in. You know, he can Wraith form away, but it's not like a Tracer blink where she blinks out, blinks back in, and then it's harassing again. When Reaper sets up that play, you have to execute it basically immediately, get that man advantage, and then start changing targets and just dealing as much damage as you can. The play there is getting the man advantage pickoff from the flank. And in order to do that, you have to have the patience to set up the shot that you're looking for. And the reason why I think the Lurk and Pounce playstyle is so important for Reaper is that he's the type of character that if he gets let loose in your team, he will just carry the entire team fight. The amount of heavy lifting damage that he can do is so significant that it can't go ignored. If you can get away with that for as long as you can, that's great. But as soon as you're playing players that know how good Reaper will be if he goes ignored, they put a lot of resources into countering you. They start to focus you in team fights and force you to Wraith away, because once you pop that Wraith button, well, you ain't doing no damage, so you're kind of like out of the fight. It's like sleep darting yourself in a way. Reaper's very counterable, but the way you work around how easy it is to shut down his playstyle is being crafty with finding those openings and being stealthy and pouncing those opportunities really quick, because once you have that first pick off in a team fight, well, it kind of doesn't matter if they are decent at countering Reaper. He's going to be able to easily follow up on the cart especially. Finding that immediate opening immediately breaks the fight into a mid-fight, and being a man up instantly, the fact that Reaper is counterable becomes much more difficult for the enemy, because very quickly they don't have the resources to allocate towards him. He looks much worse in the 6v6 fight, where ranged characters sort of start to look supreme, because when they're propped up, they own the battlefield. But as soon as it's broken into a mid-fight and he gets that pick off, it's difficult to deal with him and shut him down. Which is why Reaper is a character I think you shouldn't sleep on in this meta, or really any meta moving forward, because of his low mechanical cost, but also his ability to execute these plays to just perform quite well against a lot of different types of comps. He's also a hero that I think probably is going to be one of the better heroes to synergize with Moira, and Lucio Moira Reaper is going to be one heck of a trio. Guys, that's everything I have for today. I hope you edgelords out there can find executing these types of plays a little bit easier after watching this video, and if it was helpful to you, please be sure to drop it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, please subscribe, because we upload each and every day, so you're going to want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.